Well, that's right, Nombe. So we continue with our running coverage where we look at the issue around load shedding and just the impact. We know that South Africa is still a preferred destination, but of course, in light of now these rolling blackouts, what's the sentiment on the ground in terms of making sure that the country is able to bounce back, especially because the issue around the transition from the coal-fired energy now to look at other sources through the independent power producers. Joining us now is Angela Russell. She's with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So thank you so much indeed for your time, Angela. Maybe first and foremost, I mean, just an impact in terms of your members. How are they feeling about this constant inconvenience, as it were?
I think, even as a consumer of electricity, it's inconvenient. But I think the challenge for business is the inconsistency. It's that element of not knowing when it's going to happen. So I think, from a business perspective, what they're looking for is that transparency so that they can have business continuity.
And we know the issue around investment, it's very key. And we know that South Africa, from time to time, they'll try to talk to investors. How are they feeling? I mean, how are they reading this situation around this grid that is always constrained?
So I think what you are seeing is from the US president themselves, that they are going to invest significant amounts of money with South Africa should we transition over from coal. But I think, investors, there's opportunity here. I think there's great opportunity for private sector investment in renewable energy. And I think that is really what the focus should be going forward, is how do we unconstrain this grid? How do we ensure that we have a constant supply of electricity? Importantly, how do we encourage investors to actually go into renewables? And I think that's where, as business, we need to be quite forceful with the minister, with the president, trying to encourage them to have a strategy of getting renewable energy going forward and allowing private sector investment to take place so that we can actually add to the grid and therefore ease this burden.
And just once again, Angela, we've just seen now a short while ago Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe talking about this deal between South Africa and some of the Western nations, how they want to help the country to transition from the coal-fired energy to renewable energy, essentially saying that, we should not be pressurized. It should be a transition that is well managed. Do you think that's a fair point?
I think what you've got with Andre de Ruyter, the AmCham board met with him on the 21st of October. I think what he's got a solid, sound plan in place. And I think, like anything, it takes time. So I think, what needs to happen is we need to make sure that we have a good plan, because, the planning is important as to when we would start phasing out these things. So I think that needs to be considered, and that we need to have a good plan. But again, it's for business to kind of have that transparency of saying, okay, this is what we are planning to do. Because yes, energy constraint is a concern from an investment point of view, because it does cost, business money.
Especially because now you have to take yourself from the grid. So that speaks about more cost, where you have to move away from the grid and try to use other sources. But what are you getting from your clients in terms of South Africa itself being prepared to welcome these new innovative ideas?
I think it depends on who you're speaking to. I think absolutely, South Africa is still a good investment climate for people who are looking to invest in Africa. There are obviously policy concerns around various factors. But I think, working in the South African market, a lot of our businesses who are our members have been here for many years. So it's, they are understanding of the environment that they're working in. But I think, for me, it's that stability that they're wanting. They're wanting that commitment from the government to say, we know what is the issue, we are planning on fixing it. Because I think, we hear the narrative often, we don't necessarily see the action happening. And I think that's really what we need to start seeing. And again, I say, we need to start pressuring to have private sector investment into the solar energy so we can put back into the grid so that we do have that continuity that business requires of energy supply.
And maybe just gauging the issue around the impact, Angela, from your clients, are some perhaps looking at other destinations where they say, for the longest time, we've always heard about this issue of energy, where they say they're going to fix it, but it hasn't been the case. Are you seeing others losing appetite, so to speak?
I think those investors who are in the country are here to stay. I think what you might be seeing is that you are seeing those investors who are looking to enter into African markets, potentially not seeing South Africa as a first choice anymore. There are other countries in Africa where they are making it a lot more business friendly for companies to enter. And I think, that is something that we need to be mindful of, that we're not necessarily the first point of call anymore for entry into the African market.
And maybe just before I let you go, Angela, I would imagine they are counting the cost because of the inconvenience and how, very erratic patterns where suddenly, you get a sort of a schedule that says the load shedding will happen at this particular point, and then oftentimes it's a plain confusion. So it must be a very tough time for them as they are counting the cost.
Yeah, I think, your business manages variability. And I think, when you are, it obviously does factor in, but I think a lot of businesses who can afford have contingency plans in place. They have the generators, etc. But yes, it is the cost of inconvenience. Obviously if there's surges, there's damage to equipment, which can run into significance. So it's a problem. It is definitely a problem for them. And I think, again, those that are trying to get off the grid where possible, looking at alternative supplies now, that they are able to do so.
All right. Angela Russell, thank you so much indeed for your time. So Nompu, of course, she's with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Quite a very important task that they have. We know that the issue of investment is quite key for the country, but of course with a rolling blackout, it's quite not a very nice picture of South Africa being presented. But of course the business community always proves to be quite resilient, but it's a long-standing challenge. I think that's quite a very big challenge. Back to you, Nompu.